Hello everybody, welcome to this Good Vibrations reading for the week of October 22nd, 2017. So our symbol this week is from Virgo. Virgo, as we know, because we've been through it already this year, is probably the most diligent of signs. It's a very earth-based, it's taking care of details, it's making a list, it's perfecting and finding mastery, working towards mastery, and it's also service, okay? And it's also your health falls in this category. So it's kind of all the earthly matters all bundled in, but a very organized approach, okay? So that's kind of the feel for the week, all right? But the other thing that we want to look at this week is tomorrow the sun moves into Scorpio. And Jupiter, as we know, is already there, and it's going to be there for the next 14 months. So, Sun and Jupiter traveling through this week. Sun will be passing over Jupiter, which is always a happiness pull cord, as I call it in astrology. So, Scorpio energy, it's one of my favorites. I say this a lot. I love Scorpio because there's no bullshit with that sign. They can spot a scam from a mile away. And they love digging down to the very root of something. Scorpio is only happy when they're having deep conversations and looking directly in your eyes and not looking away and being there in the moments that are vulnerable and talking about things that are deep and sometimes dark to people, but they have a comfort there. And that's something to really celebrate about Scorpios, because they're not afraid to turn away from subjects that might be difficult for other people. And that is necessary. It's all part of life. So that energy now is going to be with us until, the end part of November. We're going to be getting real with ourselves. And I said that in what I wrote on my Facebook page about Jupiter moving into Scorpio. It's about getting real with yourself. And, you would want to have an astrologer take a look at where your natal Jupiter is in your chart to figure out where that energy is going to show up, excuse me, over the next 14 months. But suffice it to say, it's about getting real, and it's about digging down beneath the layers of what might exist out there that everybody else is kind of, moving along on life. And Scorpio's like, wait, there is something more to this. And so this week, and, with Jupiter and Scorpio too, over this next year, you're just going to feel a pull. You're going to feel a pull to want to dig up something and to allow that to come forward, and just trust yourself in that process, okay? And with the sun moving in there, it's just really going to be intense this week, because I feel like the sun, I didn't look at the astrological chart, but I think the sun would be passing over Jupiter. For sure it will, because Jupiter is moving very slowly, and we just need that, it doesn't take long for that sun to just zoop, move on by. And that's always, to me, a week of happiness, but it could be kind of unexpected happiness. Happiness from a deeper level. Happiness when you look back, you say, oh my gosh, that was just the best thing to happen. We don't always feel it in the moment. That would be these two meeting up in Scorpio. It's kind of a feeling of, I'm not so sure, okay? But believe me, it is happiness. It is the light shining forth, but you're digging down to something deeper, okay? So our symbol this week is Virgo 20. And it reads, a caravan of cars headed to the West Coast. Road trip, baby. So this is about, I think, group journeying, or just the word journeying. Okay, because when I pulled the cards, I had a real strong feeling of it being, you know, like, I'm not so sure. It could be that you're joining in the caravan, because remember, we're dealing with Scorpio energy very strongly this week as the sun moves in tomorrow into Scorpio. Or you going it alone, you saying, I see the caravan, but I'm not so sure I want to hop on board. I'm not so sure I want to be part of that because I don't really like where they're going. Headed to the West Coast, so that piece feels important to me too, and it feels like kind of an easier way of life. You know, searching for an easier, more laid back style of life. When you look at life on East versus West Coast, the general perception is that the West Coast folks are a little bit more chill. They're a little bit more laid back. They have a lot more options, for sure. I can say this because I live on the East Coast. They have a lot more options when it comes to sort of alternative choices for your health and for living. You know, I definitely sense that they have more in that realm than we do on the East Coast. We're getting there over here, but generally speaking, the East Coast is pretty tight-laced and not quite as welcoming to strangers as I feel the West Coast is. That's perception. These are big, big perceptions and might feel off to some people, and that's okay. But there's a general feeling of moving towards a more laid back, more chill kind of a life, lightening up, okay? Lightening up because the sun sets on that West Coast, so they see the last light of day. And that it's just that idea of lightening up that feels important here. So I think the cards are going to point to if we're joining the caravan, or if we're going it alone on this road trip this coming week, or if you know, we're getting information that helps us to make that decision. You know, whether you get pressure from others in your life to do something, and then you always need to make your own informed choice and not be pressured into anything. So let's see what comes up, okay? And for each card, there is a major arcana card that gives us additional information. So the first card up is from the Andara Healing Oracle deck that I have. And this is Andarian Rose Peach. This is what it looks like. And I'm going to read this to you. The little entry here. Place my energy on any of your lower chakras. I will clear you of any trauma that may be stored within your being, from this life, past lives, or that came through your lineage. My energies concentrate on the heart, will center, sacral, and first chakras. I hold deeply healing energies to upgrade your chakra system to its next stage of evolution. So, and I want to say right off here, you that chose this card have the sun. And these go beautifully together. Just you look at the colors here, you know, and definitely we're talking about the sacral, and the sun speaks to the solar plexus. So in reading this, I feel, you know, I do feel this pull towards that sacral chakra, and that's inner child land. Always when I'm working with clients, I generally have something come through from the inner child when I get to that area of the body. And those people, that part of you tends to be about 4 to 5, sometimes 6 years old. And it's whatever was stored for perceptions at that time of life. And it just stays with you. It's just an energy. Remember, we're moving into Scorpio. An inner child, here she is. Here she is, riding that horse. Totally open, totally free. This is freedom. That's what it represents to me. Freedom of thought, freedom of activity. Yeah, it's Leo energy. It's vivacious and fun and the most childlike of all the energies of the zodiac. So this part of you is really going to get stimulated this week. But it might be a push because the deal with Scorpio energy is it's not easy. It's not easy. People with strong placements like a moon or a sun, a moon, an ascendant, or if they have planetary placements in Scorpio, any of the other planets, or North Node, I mean, all of these things are purposeful and they're not easy. But it's what makes Scorpio so desirable, is it's so worth it if you put the effort in. So I feel like there's something that's going to come up this week around regaining that childlike energy, that idea of freedom and of being able to pursue what you're passionate about. And remember, we're talking about a road trip here. This could feel like a long path ahead, but you have to think about your decision. So this is giving guidance around making the decision as to if you follow that path, is it going to give you more of a sense of freedom, or are you going to feel stuck? Are you going to feel like you're just following along with everybody else? Because when I was reading this, I was really drawn to the phrase of trauma that came through your lineage. That speaks to, okay, but this is the way everybody's always done it, and therefore I need to do it that way. So be careful if you're making that decision based on that kind of thinking, because the sun here is calling you to really focus in on that little free one there, who's got flowers on her head and, is totally open and like whatever may come. And the very strong orange in here ties to this rose peach Andarian crystal for you. That there could, when you've tried this, whatever it is that this could be about, when you've tried this in the past, maybe you haven't been successful and there's kind of some trauma that exists around that. But the guiding factor should always be, is it going to offer me more freedom or less? Is it going to offer me more interest in childlike wonder or less? That's going to be your decision point this week. Okay, the second card is the soul coaching deck. And this is focus. And this, if there is a word, well, I equate the word intensity with Scorpio, but focus would be a close second. Because this to me is like, this is what Scorpio's looking to do, is it drills down. I always call it like an auger, like either somebody drilling for oil or water, drilling towards something that they know is valuable and needed, but they have to like ask the tough questions. They have to get in people's face. They have to, force somebody's cards. And then what happens is this light comes up, this epiphany comes up. It's like there's all of a sudden new air and light that comes into everything around that subject, because that person, that energy of Scorpio has been brave enough, been courageous enough to ask the questions and to face the hard realities and to sometimes say no and be very unpopular when they say no. Okay, so this card says, all of my thoughts are directed toward my highest good. So though you might find yourself drilling down this week to get to the answer on whether or not to join the caravan or go it alone, remember that the caravan of cars headed to the West Coast, the choices that you need to make this week with the strong Scorpio energy we're going to have is leading you to a lighter way of life. And this card speaks to that too, points to that too. But notice all the dark that's around. So the star, that's you, is leading the pathway here. So I do kind of feel like for you, your card is kind of answering the question. I think you're going it alone on your road trip. I don't think that you really are looking to get the consensus and follow along in a caravan of cars, and we're going to take this route and then we're going to go like this. And another reason why I say that is that, boy, this is interesting that your card was totally hidden. I thought I'd left it inside. Is you have the Tower. Now for a lot of people, this card is probably the most scary. A lot of people, look at the Death card as being a scary one, and this one too. The imagery for sure. This is traditional imagery that we're looking at from the major arcana of the Tarot. And yeah, it's pretty dramatic. Welcome to Scorpio, baby. This is like Intensity City. But what the essence of the Tower card is kind of like the planet Uranus. It is, bam, something comes in and it just blows everything apart. And I love the phrase, when I think about this card, I think of the phrase, everything falling apart only so that it can come together. Like that the coming together is what it's all about, but it can't do that until the current pieces fall away, until the current pieces are, chopped off and everything is scattered, and then you rebuild. So I think because of those two energies, the Focus card and there being just this one bright light, and then this Tower card, they're both speaking to me of, you kind of in your own mind. We don't have to make this dramatic. Cycle goes round and round. This too shall pass. Scorpio, very, very intense week of Scorpio. But remember, we've got Virgo energy for the theme of the week. Virgo, as I said, is about mastery. It's about groundedness. It's about having a list. It's about perfecting. You're working on your mastery this week. So, all of this to say that if you have something that you're making a decision about whether to join in with a bunch of people on a journey, or you're going in alone on your own journey, and I know I'm talking really broad here, remember that it is about moving to a place that feels lighter to you, moving to a place that feels more true to you. Because that's what this Focus card is about. It's about finding your truth. So you might need to kind of break apart all the pieces and parts, and in terms of your mentality, how you think about something, you might have to put a bomb in there and detonate it and say, you know what, and this could be a really powerful visualization. I've never thought of this before, but putting a bomb in to a part of your life or a project or whatever, and mentally detonating the bomb and saying, nothing about this is working. I know there's promise in this, but either I'm not going about it the right way, or I'm not attracting the right kind of energy on this. And so I really need to mentally blow this up, and I need to totally rethink the whole thing. And something that's been coming up in a lot of my readings lately is, because remember, I keep for you being drawn back to the Virgo energy, because Scorpio, you're going to really feel the Scorpio energy this week. It might feel deep and strong and like very powerful in that kabam sort of feeling, but I keep being drawn back to, but wait a minute. You're in an earthly life, and let's get practical here. So you might blow up the mental idea and then think about all the pieces and parts, because that's what the Tower is so good with, is everything gets kind of blown up and then you have a pile of rubble. All right, so then write those individual pieces on pieces of paper and then try putting them together, or see if other words or solutions occur to you as you're looking at ideas that you put together in different combinations. Because there's something about the energetic combination of whatever this is for you that just isn't jiving, and you're feeling it. And you are really going to feel it with Scorpio energy being so strong this week. But your saving grace is thinking about Virgo. We think about a caravan of cars headed to the West Coast. A caravan of cars is very organized. So though there may be, this desire to go in and blow something up mentally, not physically, not in actuality, reality, you might want to do that. Remember that you always have practicality at hand here. There is this sense of organization with the symbol, the caravan of cars, but you've got to find your own way to it. I don't feel like you're following others' paths. But the beauty of Scorpio, that energy we're all going to be receiving, and with the sun passing over Jupiter, it's a positive time. And so, but you might get a flood of ideas with the sun passing over Jupiter. There might be new, and that might be the very thing that causes this need for an explosive event to happen. And then literally trying to put ideas or people's names or feelings, or if it's a project, putting the parts of the project, and like what is your goal and what is your vision and what are your values around it. Putting all of those components literally on pieces of paper, because that's the Virgo energy I'm feeling for you. Getting organized and then starting to put these connections together again. And that could really serve you to find a whole new point that might feel like it's up by itself, but that's what Scorpio energy is meant to be, and that's why I love it so much. They are among the trailblazers. There's two other signs I consider the trailblazer energy, but Scorpio's a big one, and especially from the emotional standpoint. Okay, the final card is from the Magdalene Oracle. I think we had this last week. Perception is coming up again. Now this card has, and this idea around perception has been really present with me this week. I've just been getting a flood of information from my team about something on an idea of how people could look at their lives in a way that makes it a little more, all this woo-woo stuff makes it a little more tangible. And so for you, the Hermit is your card. So the Hermit and perception. So, and knowing we have all the Scorpio energy, but our theme for the week is Virgo energy. So it is about mastery, and it is about service. Those feel important for you. And the caravan of cars headed to the West Coast, you're looking at more ease, more light, a sense of being more laid back, and of bringing a lightness to life. Okay? And I talked about the word journeying, and that is an incredibly important card with our word with the card, the Hermit. Because the Hermit is the great journeyer, and he has the lantern that he simply trusts that the wisdom comes. The wisdom shows up. Always. It's a complete faith, but it does require introspection. And so you this week, and introspection is something that I feel Scorpio does incredibly well. So the energies, of course, as always, it's divine and it's perfect. The energies for you this week are calling you to use that auger that I talked about in the intro and go within, digging down, drilling down, because you know there's something important there that wants to come up. And it's around this idea of perception. And the information that I was getting this week was about it's well beyond the word important. It is like the main stable. It is the core of life on earth, and whether or not you live a life of your dreams and like on earth as it is in heaven, or if you're kind of somebody's life has got you by the tail and is whipping you around, that is all a matter of perception. No matter what you face, there are countless perceptions that you can apply to them. And so, thinking about it, for instance, like you're going into a clothing shop and you're trying on different types of clothing, and it's the same sort of thing. And there's absolutely no harm in thinking about a different perception to what brings me a lighter, brighter, easier way of life, more laid back, less tense, less laced up, less needing to perfect, needing to have the answer. Because the perception card to me speaks to you, this inner wisdom within you wants to bring up other options, but it needs your willingness to allow that to happen. The Magdalene deck always speaks to very, very deep things versus my other decks. It always gets to deeper rivers. It honestly feels like the blood flowing through your veins. It is that kind of an energy to it. It's getting more to the root of things, which Scorpio likes that we're moving into. So between the Hermit and Perception cards, it's really looking, the thing about the Hermit card is the lantern. And supposedly the cloak that he wears is the cloak of invisibility, where he can walk amongst mortals and, his power, his aura is felt, and yet he's not seen. And that is your higher self. Your higher self is this kind of hermit figure that carries the lantern within you, that carries the wisdom and the light there whenever you're ready. And when you begin to integrate more of those viewpoints, i.e. by changing, and not even changing, it's more opening, creating an opening so that other perceptions can be made available. Because the lantern is multi-sided, contains a star within it, 6-pointed star, Virgo energy, number 6. It's just that inner mastery that there's, for every project, for every problem, for every scenario, there are always multiple ways you can look at it. And I'm feeling like, particularly with the sun moving over Jupiter, that expands options for us. It expands opportunities, because Jupiter is the planet of opportunity. And so it is important in terms of, and this is the time of year when the sun passes over Jupiter here, when we're getting down to something very deep within us. That's what's being called to you. And whether or not, are you going to follow the pack, or are you going to go it alone? And for you, I don't necessarily feel a strong pull in either direction. It's more, I've got to follow my inner guidance. I have to follow what feels right to me. In looking within and trusting that inner self, inner hermit within you. But allowing, it's more like opening up and allowing those multiple viewpoints. And it can be a really powerful exercise because remember, we've got Virgo energy for this week. It can be powerful to like put those options, those perceptual options, I guess, put them down on paper. Like literally make them real by writing them out. And then if you're struggling with any decision, do some pro and con work. Or do the what ifs. Okay, so what if this did come to pass? What could potentially happen? I mean, kind of set that energy out and see how it begins to make you feel. See what the momentum starts to feel like, because you will feel if it feels natural and good, and most of all expansive. When it feels like it's got a lot of legs to it, it's got a lot of potential, then you're headed in the right direction on that kind of an option. It feels like kind of problem solving energy to me for you this week, in opening up, allowing more perceptions to come through. Because the thing about this symbol of a caravan of cars headed to the West Coast is sometimes it can feel like we're just going along with the pack. And the only way that we seem to allow change is when we start feeling unreasonably grumpy and totally unhappy. But you can do a review of all that before you get to those kind of unpleasant states. You certainly could do a review on that ahead of time. If you're starting to feel the itch, or you're starting to feel like, I wish this could be more. I wish I could expand this or do something different with it. Any of that kind of calling is this hermit within you. The lantern is lit up and is inviting you in and going deep. And this is the time of year that we go deep, we go within. With Scorpio energy, we drill down, we get it, and we get real with Scorpio. There's no getting around it. So whether or not you choose, sometimes there are caravan kinds of options, perceptions that we can choose, or lone road trip, or maybe you're on a road trip and you say, oh yeah, I'm fine with meeting up with you in this spot, and then maybe I'll travel with you for a little while, and then I'm going to get off and I'm going to go a little bit more by myself. So it can be a quasi, kind of caravan where you're just taking part in portions of it because there's things you want to see and do and be that are different from the group. And Scorpio does call us, our uniqueness, to come forward, particularly in our emotional perceptions, our emotional reactions. Okay, everybody, there you are. I hope you have a great week. It is a good one always when the sun passes over Jupiter. Be aware of the expansive opportunities that will come to you this week, and trust in them and allow yourself to be open to thinking about all the options that are available. I'll see you next week.